All right, we are going to be doing a quick Tim Burton self-portrait project. And we like to do these around Halloween times because they do look a little creepy. So we are actually going to start with the picture frame, or the frame that's going to go around your self-portrait. And this is something that you will be cutting out at the end of class. So we're going to start right with a Sharpie because this is just a picture frame, so it's not a super big deal how perfect it is. So we are going to start with the rounded edges. So around every corner, I would like you to make a nice rounded edge or a pointed edge, but it does need to go in each corner. Try to make them as similar as possible, although that is not super necessary because, like I said, this is like kind of a creepy haunted thing. So when you make creepy haunted things, it is okay that's not perfect. So either they can be V's or rounded edges of your picture frame. And then the next step, all you're going to do is from this line to this line, you want to make some sort of line, and it needs to have the same shape. So whether you're going to go down, whether you're going to go up, down, up, whether you just want to do a V, some sort of simple line, but it needs to have the same pattern. So for example, if I'm going to go up, V, up, and then connect, okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to go up, V, up, and connect. I'll go up, V, up, and connect, and up, V, up, and connect. And like I said, if it's not perfect, it is fine. It is okay. It does not have to be perfect. Okay, and then all we're going to do is on some parts of the line, you're just going to make it thicker. So for example, if I say on my corners, I want it to be nice and thick, so I'm just going to add a copycat line so that you can see that it's nice and thick. Okay, if I want to say on every V, I'm going to add some thickness to my frame. So again, whatever you do, you're just adding some thickness to every part of your picture frame. And then I'm going to add some sort of detail to make this look like a picture frame. So I'm just going to do straight lines. You can do dots. You can do really kind of any sort of thing to do that. All right, next I'm going to start my face shape. And if you watched any sort of Tim Burton video or seen any of his characteristics, they have very large heads, and their heads resemble almost like an alien because they are very pointed, and they have very long necks and very skinny bodies. So big heads, skinny bodies. And again, which is why we kind of do this around Halloween time. You should have some sort of cap like this at your table. It should be like a yogurt lid. Doesn't have to look exactly like mine. I'm going to place this at the top of my artwork. Please remember that you can or probably will be adding a little bit of hair detail on the top of your lid, so do not put it too high, and obviously needs to be inside your picture frame. You are going to hold this, and we are only going to trace half of the lid to get the rounded part of the head. So just very lightly, I'm kind of doing it a little bit darker so that you see it. I'm going to trace that half circle. Down towards the bottom, so if I put this here a little bit off of the lid, I'm going to put a dot, and this is going to give me my long and skinny face, okay? So depending on how severe you want your face to be pointed, but I'm just basically going to connect, touch the dot and connect. And I want this to be sort of, you don't want to use a straight line, so we're definitely not going to be using a ruler or anything. You do want a little bit of a rounded line, so think of just like a really pointy or a very pointy V, okay? So that's what we're kind of looking for our Tim Burton inspired self-portraits. And I know these look strange. Remember, these are Tim Burton inspired, so they're not going to look like you. So then we are going to do nice, long, skinny necks. Okay, make sure that they're nice and long. I am going to ask that you do some sort of neckline, so like where your t-shirt or shirt would be, and then we're going to do shoulders that come down. Now remember, they're supposed to be nice and skinny. Okay, at this point, if you want to add 2 little lines for your arms, I like to always add like a little neckline If you want to be wearing a t-shirt, you can add little cuffs on your shirt. Any details that you want to do, stripes, polka dots. For mine, since I don't have a whole lot of room on mine because of these big V's, I'm just going to leave mine blank. So that is that. We are going to add some ears, and this will not be covered with our hair, so we are going to add that. About halfway where you traced, if you can see that, where you traced your circle, we're going to be adding ears. And Tim Burton didn't do a whole lot of detail with ears. They're just little C's. So we're going to be adding those. This will also help with our eyes. And then we are going to be tracing our eyes. So one of the big thing about Tim Burton's portraits is that they had huge round eyes. Okay, so like I said, they almost have like alien characteristics. We are going to use this plane, which means I'm going to put my pencil right where my eyes are. I can draw a little line if I wanted to that I can erase later, but that is where I want my eyes. You have these 4-ounce cups. There should be a bigger circle and a smaller circle. You're going to use the smaller side. You're going to place this down with my fingers inside the cup. I'm just going to gently trace around this cup to give me a nice big round eye, and then of course I can go over it a little bit darker if I need to see it or fix any imperfections. You are going to do the same thing to the other side. It is okay if these are super close, and actually that does sort of play into the Tim Burton fact of how eyes look. So again, just fixing that. All right, so now we have our eyes, and again, I know these look super creepy, and they're supposed to, which is why we do this around Halloween. All right, next we're going to finish off the face very quickly. Some other ways that Tim Burton self-portraits can be shown by that are a little bit different is obviously, like we talked about, the big eyes, and then they have super small noses and mouths. Okay, so first of all, we're going to do the pupils. Obviously, you can play around with how your pupils are going to go, whether they want to, you know, be up towards somewhere, looking up at the top. Maybe you're going to draw a spiderweb or something up there. They can be looking forward. So however you want to do that, we will be adding eyelids and eyelashes, all that, but just kind of put those in very quickly. And then the noses, like I said, the noses and mouths are very simple and they're very little. Okay, so we're going to do, you can either do a nose like this, okay? So very simple, you're just going to do 2 nostrils, 2 lines coming down, and little C's on each side, okay? Or you can just simply do a little kind of coming down between the eyes and a nose like that. Okay. For the mouths, they are very, very small. So you can either do kind of a little circle to the side if you want it to look surprised or like in awe. We can do a little smirk from one side to the other. There's pretty much no wrong way to do these lips. If you want to do more of a realistic lips, and this is how you'll see a lot in some of the movies, you start with a little V. You make a bigger V if you want it to be smiling, or a straight line if you want it to be straight. So if I want it to be a straight face, so I do a straight line, and then coming from this little V, you come down and then make a rounded U. Okay, if you wanted it more of a smiley one, like I said, the more rounded you make this line, the more smiley it will be. Okay, and then we're just going to add some eyelids. So just by tracing on the outside or the inside, and then they always have big, like drawn on straight eyelashes, almost like they are, you know, not real. Okay, for the hair, we're going to do some sort of what I call helmet hair, which means that it's going to, it's unrealistic, which is not what we look like in real life, but we are going to start with either a part, so you're either going to do a side part that comes in like this, or a straight part. Whether you're a boy or a girl, you will be doing this. Okay, so either a straight part, and then what I mean by helmet hair is this line is going to come and connect to the head. Now this would be the top to a girl or a boy's hair. if you want to, for boys, if you want to add a little bit of hair sticking up, either towards the back, you know, just by making some lines. If you have bangs coming down, you can be adding that. And then basically we just erase any lines that don't make sense in our hairline. Okay, so it can look like that. For a girl, if you are making long hair, obviously coming down, you can leave the bangs coming down if you have other bangs coming down. So for example, if I wanted to do something like this, if I had little bangs coming down, and then basically you're just going to be drawing a rainbow coming down. If you have really long hair, obviously it's going to come all the way down. If you have, you know, like for example, shorter hair, it might look like this. Okay, but to get that spooky Tim Burton vibe, we're going to do kind of elongated lines, not a lot of details. So, you know, I could have made this super zigzaggy, but for Tim Burton, we don't do that, okay? So, this would be an example of, you know, a boy's hair, a boy's helmet hair, or you can just leave it alone, okay? So after you have, I'm just going to keep this so it looks the same, okay? You can add little details in the hair, okay? So I'm choosing to erase this rounded line if you have longer hair, and then I'm just going to make some accent lines so it looks like hair. And again, simplified Tim Burton style. Boys, you're going to do the same thing. You can see that I just added some lines here, okay? So you're just going to add some detail lines in your project. Okay, right now, if you do have some room in the background, we can just add a spider web or two in the background, just by making some diagonal lines from a corner, obviously lifting over your self-portrait. Okay, and then you're just going to pretend like there's a bouncy ball coming from the corners. You don't need to spend a lot of time on this. You don't even need to do this. However, I do think it kind of adds to the spooky vibe and adds something to the background so it's not so bland and boring. But like I said, I don't want you spending a whole lot of time on this spider web. It should just take probably, you know, a quick minute or two to do if you want to do that. Okay. At this point in our project, we are going to outline every pencil line, and the only thing I do want you coloring in is your pupils. Okay, now as you are doing this, Tim Burton did a lot of sketchy lines, which means it is okay to lift up your marker and put it back down at some point of this project. In normal, when we usually outline your paintings, I tell you to do these nice smooth lines, but Tim Burton, if we're doing these inspired by Tim Burton, had kind of like a sketchy vibe to his project. So by just lifting up my marker and like kind of placing it down and not the perfect right spot that I did, kind of gives me this sketchy look as in his projects. Now, I'm not telling you to be messy. That's a whole different a different thing. You're just lifting up your marker to kind of get like the kind of creepy, not perfect vibe to it. I'm still staying on my pencil lines, but they're just uneven, like not perfect lines. Okay. And like I said, that's just an option. You do not have to do that, but just do a really good job. Stay on those pencil lines so that we cannot see any of that. Okay, so I have finished outlining and paused it and kind of went ahead so that you can see what that looks like. The next step we're going to do before we add dark parts to it, we are going to add highlights. And this is actually always easier to do first. So I'm going to grab an oil pastel. Sorry, I just noticed I forgot some eyelashes down here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my white oil pastel and color in my eyes. Now, because this is a gray piece of paper, it's not going to show up like super well, but it will show up a little bit better once we put a dark blend on your face. So just try to do a nice job and color in the eyes with oil pastel. Try not to get on your marker, because that's not something that we can fix. You cannot put marker over oil pastel. It does not work great. After your whole eyes are filled in, we're just going to add some highlights to your face. And where I would like you to do this is along the right side of everything. So you can see that I'm carefully putting a white line along the right side of my face, along the right side of my neck, along the right side of my mouth, along the right side of my shirt. Basically, I want you to look at some places on the right side of the hair, okay? So we're just trying to keep all of our highlights to this side. I also can go around and add some white to my picture frame just to bring that in just by adding some highlights. Okay, so the next items you will need is an ebony pencil, which if you've never seen one of these, they are a way that you can blend or smear colors, and then a charcoal stick. So we got our lightest, so now we're trying to do a darkest, which is what you will use your charcoal stick for, and then a medium, which is what you'll use your ebony for. So basically what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get 3 different tones. So we want your hair to be the darkest, your skin to be medium, okay, and then your shirt to be darkest. So we can see these 3 different values. Right now we look all the same. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now with my charcoal stick is to start on the hair. So again, this is very, very lightly because this does smear, but I'm just going to use the side of this, kind of like a rubbing. Okay, I'm just adding, like I'm not coloring the whole thing in, just use a little bit at a time, and then with your finger, a very controlled rub, you can go right over top of your marker to get this tone, okay? You can always add more. You can erase, but trust me when I say less is more. Okay, you can always add darker lines and go back in and add some more value. Okay, so we are using your charcoal to get your hair and your shirt darker than the paper. Okay, so like I said, just use the side of these, use less is more, always blend. Another way that you can do this, if you're having a hard time, is to literally take that stick, rub it on your finger so it's nice and black, and then you can kind of control it like that as well. Okay, but we are definitely not just coloring in the whole hair with our charcoal stick. Okay, so just little bits at a time, keep adding, keep adding. If a little bit gets in your face, no big deal, because we can always erase that or just add that to our face. But remember that we do need 3 different tones, okay? So we're trying to get most of our gray paper covered by doing this. Okay, I also have added just a little bit of charcoal to the white parts of my picture frame, so you can kind of see what those are looking like. So I'm just adding a little bit and smearing it just in the big parts, the parts that I made wider. Okay, so once this is all done and you can start seeing my volume, you can just get a tissue or paper towel and wipe off your fingers. You're going to get messy again, so we don't need to worry about that. But now for our face, we just need to add a little shade of this ebony. We know that our gray paper is going to be showing through, and that's okay, but I'm just going to, you can see I'm barely even holding my pencil. This is called a pencil rub when you are getting the tone of the paper, but I just want a lot of my paper showing through, but I want it looking different than my background. Okay, trying to stay off my oil pastel lines. We can always add more oil pastel later as we go on, definitely off of my eyeballs. Okay, if you're doing it wherever you're going opposite of the highlight, so if the highlight's over here, I'm going to put more pressure on my pencil to get a shadow on this side, okay, because there's always highlight and shadow. I also want to do a little bit more pressure underneath my eyes, okay, above my eyes. These are where shadows naturally fall. I want to do a little bit of more pressure around my nose, okay, and then obviously we want our lips to be darker, just a little bit darker than our skin tone, okay, and then I'm just going to do the same thing with my neck. So just softly, very softly, always adding more, blending with that finger, just so it looks like a different tone than our regular paper. Okay, and then just finishing off, you can see that I cut off my extra paper so it actually looks like a picture frame. I can go back over with any of that white oil pastel if I want to, you know, do some more accents like that. I'm adding some shine spots so it kind of looks like a glass that's going over top. Okay, and then this is finished. You need to put your name somewhere small on the gray paper in behind the spider web.